Hey everyone, this is Nitro. In this video, I wanted to talk about the details to the class mastery enchantment system. Now, officially it seems to be called equipment mastery, but realistically I call it the class mastery enchant system because your class has to be mastered for you to be able to get access to this new enchant system. For example, if you go to a hero who does not have the class mastery yet, such as my Liffany, you can see here I have no way to access that class mastery enchant system. So, but with Matthew, who has been mastered in his ranger class, if I click open equipment mastery, it opens it up. So, before I go into the details of the enchantment specifically, I should also mention one other factor to this. The items that you use for strengthening, which are these rune stones, they can be alchemied down. Okay. So, for example, if I alchemy one of these, it's worth 40 of these Dusts of Fate, the SSR ones. If I alchemy down a rare one, it's worth 5. And then there's also these silver ones, which I think are just worth nothing. So, just keep that in mind. Okay, so there's 5. And then there, oh sorry, it is worth 1. So there you go. Right? So, alchemying down, the whole point of it is that if you collect 600 of these Dusts of Fate, you can form an expert mastery pick, one gift pack. So if I, for example, just click synthesis here, I can actually choose a specific pack of items that I want. So let me just do that. And you get the expert mastery pick one gift pack here. So if I use it, right, you can open to choose any one kind of expert mastery stones times 3. So you can actually choose exactly which SSR stones you want here, which is quite a useful feature, right? So that is why alchemying down may be worth considering. Those but realistically, you wouldn't alchemy down ones you want. Most likely you would alchemy down, let's say, for example, maybe you have a lot of intelligence increasing scrolls for infantry and lancer class, right? Those would be the ones you probably want to alchemy down if you don't use Yulia in her infantry class. And then similarly, for the cavalry class, cavalry flyers and aquatic units, they really don't need it, so you can alchemy down these ones too, right? So there are certain items that you may choose to alchemy down for the Dust of Fate so that you can make new items of the type that you actually need. Keep in mind though, the scrolls that I mentioned do become useful in the future. For example, I think the Mystery Knight, when she's released, actually is an int-based cavalry unit. So you may consider wanting to keep those for Mystery Knight. And similarly, as I already mentioned, the infantry lancer ones can be used by Yulia. So even if you choose not to alchemy them and just hold on to them for the future, you're not wrong to do that. Okay, so and then of course, finally, all these enchant items, they primarily come from Ancient Beckoning, of course, right? The Ancient Beckoning battles is where, depending on the score you get, you will receive rewards. And the rewards are these mastery stones. Right? So, and then finally, there is also from Apex Arena, you also actually do get mastery stones from this as well now. But the mastery stones from this one only apply to the arena section, right? You gain random arena mastery stones. I'll go into that in more details later. But last but not least, from the store, you can also purchase every week arena mastery gift boxes, 2 of them. And these also give arena mastery stones. Every so often as well, I think they have some kind of some of these purchases, if you so wish to put money into the game, will give you, stone gift packs as well. So there is one here, the Season 1 Apex Commemorative Gift Pack gives you Arena Mastery Stones, right? So there's lots of ways you can get these, but primarily it would be through grinding. Alright, so with all that mentioned, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the new enchant system. And it's actually quite straightforward. Basically, once you have your class mastery for your character, you're allowed to enchant 3 slots per, I guess, gear slot, if you will. But these enchants basically are just flat bonuses for your hero. Okay, so for example, if I just go to my Leon as an example, right? He has plus 69 attack, plus 570 hit points, plus 26 defense, and plus 27 skill. If I remove all his equipment, you can see that these bonuses still appear here. So it's a flat out bonus to stats for your hero. Even though they call it an equipment mastery enchant or whatever, it has no relevance whatsoever to your equipment. So it's just flat green bonuses for your hero in terms of stats, right? So let me just give back the equipment to my Leon now. Each enchant has a certain maximum value, as you can see. For example, and I guess to a certain extent, I guess that's why they call it the equipment enchants. For example, the weapon mastery slot has a maximum of 30 attack potentially. Okay. By comparison, if I show the armor mastery slot, it maxes out the attack at 10. Right. The headgear mastery slot for attack maxes out at 15, and then I think for accessories, the attack slot is a maximum of 25. Can't quite recall off the top of my head. The icons for your enchants here change depending on how high the value is, right? If it's just a regular enchant, like midpoint or below there, it's just a regular, I guess, regular color. Right? If it's slightly higher than that, but not quite maxed out, like this attack here, you can see it's a darker color, as opposed to near white, this one is more beige colored. And then the mastery ones, of course, the very ones that are very close to mastery, appear in this bright orange color. Note that it doesn't have to be absolutely max to appear in the bright orange. 29 out of 30, close enough to the 30, it still appears in this bright orange, as you see here. This one is actually maxed out though, at 10 out of 10. So from the bars as well, you can see just how close to max your enchants are. And in terms of rolling them, it's pretty simple. You just click on one slot, click on the mastery, and then you can choose the roll, the rune stone you wish to use, the mastery stone, and then you can just click mastery to roll. Right. There's because you only have 3 slots, it's very limited in what you can choose for these ones. And the arena slot, of course, only applies, these arena stat increases are only valid in arena. So whereas these 4 slots are flat out stat bonuses in all content, the arena slots are specific to arena only, but they're cumulative. So in arena, you'll get all the regular bonuses as well as the arena bonus. So with that mentioned, the only thing left to talk about is the maximum stats, and second, I guess, more or less recommended enchants for each slot. So first, I'm going to talk about the maximum stats for each particular slot. So I'm going to bring up a chart to do so. So here on the left, I have the possible enchants, and then along the top, I have the 5 enchant slots, right? Weapon, armor, helmet, accessory, and PvP. And then finally also a total value. So we see here, for the weapon slot, hit points maxes out at 100. Attack and int maxes out at 30. Defense and magic defense is a mere 5. And skill is 15. For the armor slot, hit points is 250. Okay. Attack and int is a mere 10. Defense is 25, magic defense is 15, and skill is a mere 5. The helmet slot has a max of 250 hit points, 15 for the attack and int, which is a bit higher than the armor ones. You get 20 defense for the helmet slot, or 25 magic defense. Skill is once again 5. And finally, for the accessory slot, it's 150 hit points, 25 attack and int, 10 defense, 15 magic defense, and 25 skill. And last but not least, the PvP slots has 4 additional enchants, but other than that, hit points is 500. Attack is 60. Int is 60. Defense and magic defense is 45. Skill is an amazing 80 amount. And then the last 4 enchants are increase crit chance, increase crit damage percentage, reduce the crit hit chance on your character, and then reduce the crit damage you take. And the percentages that max out there is 10% increased crit chance, 20% increased crit damage, reduce your character's being crit hit chance by 20%, and crit damage reduction of 30%. So you can see a whole bunch of effects. This is the total column, assuming you roll absolute maxes for everything. And you can see you can actually get 140 increased attack, 140 increased int, 105 increased defense and magic defense, and 130 increased skill. It's a huge amount of stat buffs in total. But keep in mind that these buffs do include the PvP values. Nonetheless, you're effectively looking at a maximum of 80 attack from all of this, or 80 int, right? Rather than 105, you're looking at 60 defense and magic defense increase. And then for skill, right? Skill is a maximum of 50 in total, so not that much. So, with those maximum values covered, let's talk about the best enchants based on and in general. So, of course, enchants are very much based on the hero that you're trying to enchant, but a good rule to follow is because of the existence of Omega, and Omega, as long as he has 3 times more skill than the enemy, he will be able to directly attack the enemy hero. So that basically forces you to have skill enchants as a result, right? Omega's skill seems to cap out at roughly, I estimate, around 500. A lot of people have around 460 to 480 as long as they have a 6-star Omega. Okay, keep that in mind for PvP. So if you're looking at 480 and you divide that by 3, all your characters need a minimum of 160 skill. Minimum. Okay. If it's actually at 500 divided by 3, then you need around 166. Although I say that, also keep in mind that Omega has this knowing strike skill that can increase his skill by 10% for every block he moves before battle. In addition, there are also effects that increase skill. Characters who can do so include, for example, Claret as well as Betty. In the case of, and also Lanford. So, quickly bringing up a few of those examples, if I can find the characters. Sorry, let me just sort by rarity. That should make it easy to find them. Okay, so Betty has a skill that does provide skill aid, plus 20% skill to an ally. And that would be a buff that lasts 1 turn. Claret has potentially skill command. And the effect of skill command is, as long as an ally is within 3 blocks of Claret, their skill is increased by 20%. And finally, Lanford. Lanford's buff is that, if I can find him, here we go. Lanford's buff is his talent. His talent increases the stats of all stats of allies within 2 or 3 blocks of him. Right? My Lanford is a mere 3 stars, so it only increases by 5%. I believe at 6 stars, however, it's a 15% all stat increase. So there are ways for Omega to get increased skill to allow them to potentially get 3 times your character's skill. So to be safe in general, you really do want around 200 skill, if at all possible, on all your characters, if we're looking at PvP purposes. Thus, very much so, you're going to have to roll for skill on the Arena Mastery, right? To try to get, let's say, the 80 skill increase there. And you really do want to roll for skill on the weapon and especially the accessory. Because the accessory slot can give 25 skill, the weapon can give another 15. So that's another 40 skill here, right? You'll probably ignore the armor and the headgear slots for skill because that's a mere 5 per. But if you can get 80 here, right? And then 40 from the weapon and accessory mastery, that's 120 skill increase. with 120 plus most characters' base skill, your characters will be safe against Omega. With that said though, good luck trying to get, max skill on all of these slots, especially in the Arena Mastery section. So, that covers 2 of the slots already, right? The next thing I strongly recommend in general is for your characters to buff their primary attack skill in every single enchant. So, because Lana is int based, I would want to roll int on the weapon, int on the accessory, int on the armor, and int on the headgear slot. Because this game is all about one-shotting enemies in general, and the more intelligence or the more attack you have, the better. So that's why you want attack on every slot regardless. Right. So, as for the last 2 on the weapon and accessory, I usually just recommend hit points, simply because hit points increases a character's survivability, right? But it is kind of optional. For example, once again referring to Lana, I mean, Lana is generally going to get one-shotted no matter what. Whether you add hit points, defense, or magic defense, I don't think ultimately it'll make that much of a difference. She has very good survivability against magic defense attacks in general. So you might so take that as you will. It is possible you might choose to, but in general, I recommend hit points for the last slot on the weapon and accessory. And then for those other 2 slots here, well, I usually recommend hit points for both of these, of course, as well, because you want to maximize hit points. And then the final slot, rather than skill, you would choose either defense or magic defense. Kind of like that. And that's the way I pretty much recommend all mages and healers build up. So as an example of a nearly completed one, like Iris, you can see here that she has pretty much int on each one, skill and skill here, hit point, hit point, hit point, hit point, and then the last one was the choice between defense and magic defense. I had no real preference on those last 2 enchants, so I just did 2 defense enchants randomly. You can easily replace it with magic defense, you're not wrong. So there we go, and that's what I usually do for my healers. For tanks, well, tanks are pretty straightforward, right? Because most tanks replace their attack value with either defense, magic defense, or a combination of both. That's really what you're looking to roll on all pieces of gear to maximize their attack. So my Lenin, you can see here, every single slot I've rolled defense and magic defense. I haven't really particularly cared about maximizing these values, so I think I just rolled 1 enchant scroll, 1 SR scroll for every single slot here to get some increase. So that's why I have the 32 defense and 27 magic defense at this time. The third and final one, if I were to roll it, would probably just be hit points, right? Because I don't use Lenin for PvP. So there is no reason for me to roll skill at all for Lenin. Right? So I would just roll hit points, hit points, hit points, and hit points in all the slots and be done with it. A PvP tank, like Juggler, is much more challenging to decide on. You do have to roll skill, so that's why I have the 2 skills here, right? But then you have to choose the balance between the hit points, the defense, and magic defense values. What I've chosen was pretty much defense, magic defense, hit points for accessory, for the armor and headgear slots, and for the weapon and accessory, I chose to do hit points and defense. Right? You're not wrong if you do hit points and magic defense. It's kind of up to you. So that covers mages, healers, tanks, and I guess the only ones left to cover would be, I guess, ranged attackers, and I guess melee DPS. So, ranged attackers like Matthew and Zerda, right? They generally want to maximize attack as well, so you want to roll attack on everything, right? Once again, I like to in their case, for these ranged attackers, because they tend to be based on doing crit hits, I actually do roll skill on all 4 slots, and in the very last slot is just hit points. Right? In general, they don't have that great defense and magic defense growth, so increasing their defense and magic defense won't really improve their survivability in my opinion. Right? There would still generally be one-shottable, but hit points at least would give them the most benefit in terms of survivability. there are a few exception characters like Luna, Listel, and Bozo who rely on magic defense, right? So for them, of course, you want to roll magic defense on every single slot. Once again, I rolled skill on the weapon and the accessory, and then of course hit points. In their case, I had the choice between more skill and defense on these last 2 slots, right? But once again, Bozo's defense is not super high in the first place at 260. I don't think increasing his defense is going to allow him to survive getting one-shotted from a melee attack, so I didn't roll. So I decided I might as well just roll a bit more skill in the case of Bozo, right? Because his base skill is only 73. It's very, very low. So I'm hoping that 10 extra skill can help boost his skill enough to survive against Omega. As for Listel, pretty much the same kind of situation. Listel is actually a unique case. Her defense and magic defense growth is actually A, not B. So they can actually get incredibly high. Thus, it's actually worth considering on Listel to roll defense, to allow her to avoid getting one-shotted by melee attacks. Right? Listel's magic defense is naturally quite high, and you'll probably buff it up anyways, so that's an interesting point to raise. I've actually seen some people choose to increase Listel's defense value even further, rather over magic defense, in an attempt to prevent her from getting one-shotted in general, and that seems to actually work out quite well for Listel too. So just keep that in mind. Alright, and then finally, the last characters to cover would be just DPS style characters like Elwyn and so on. And once again, they're quite straightforward in terms of rolls. I like to do hit points and attack for everything, right? And then there's skill on the weapon and accessory slots. And then the final 2 for these 2 is once again a choice between defense and magic defense. I chose defense in the case of Elwyn because his defense growth is S, his magic defense growth is C. A bit more magic defense is not going to avoid Elwyn getting one-shotted, so there's no point in doing that. And yeah, that pretty much covers it. And it would be pretty much the same for Leon and so on. Right? All the DPS, I would pretty much follow this exact same rule. So, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say about the new Enchant system. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. But overall, the Enchant system is quite straightforward. You just consistently want to do the same thing, pretty much, for every single character. It's just, you separate it based on the character class in general. And then you'll repeat the same enchants over and over again for every single character. Alright, so thanks for watching everyone. I hope you found this video useful. And on that note, Nitro out.